Retail businesses underground in the city's subway system are failing, and those who are still in business say that they're struggling to keep their doors open. CBS 2's Dave Carlin.
So once upon a time, the subway was a happy place where you could get everything from a coffee to a haircut. But rampant crime has turned this place into a military occupation zone, making it a terrible location to try and run a business. Which is why every store down here, if it's not closed already, it's living on borrowed time.
Sad-looking storefronts here underground, where you could once grab a slice or a newspaper. Of 195 retail spaces in the subways, only 52 of them are open for business, a vacancy rate of nearly 75%.
Mayor Adams says the subway system is averaging about 6 felonies every day. He wants those statistics to improve, which is why he is implementing longer work shifts for officers.
It does seem like more and more spaces are closing.
Something is happening, and for a reason.
Because they can't make the rent, and we're just not getting enough foot traffic.
The victim, a 26-year-old man who says he never saw it coming. He was the victim of a random attack.
While crime in the city overall is down, the start of the year has seen a spike in the subways, and the governor says it's giving riders anxiety.
Ridership is down. I've definitely noticed it. While everyone touts that ridership is back up, I see numbers day by day.
Police recovered a shell casing near the turnstile, and even though no one was injured, subway riders in this neighborhood are asking one more time for this.
I think one of the things we need is more visible police officers.
Down in the subway, all you'll find are empty storefronts and struggling businesses. And although some people are saying that the problems down there are due to changing times and remote work, nobody wants to admit that crime has a lot to do with why nobody wants to try and sell anything down there. In fact, the chaos underground is so bad that at the start of this year, the governor called in the National Guard to patrol the subway. Because our criminals are so heavily armed and dangerous, only the presence of an occupying military force has the potential to stop them. And at the exact same time, the mayor called in New York's finest, the NYPD, to conduct bag checks, ride trains, and patrol subway entrances, arresting fare evaders, which has been effective, but it hasn't been enough to bring back all of the businesses that used to exist underground, probably because these security measures are temporary. By 10:30, the police move off to fight crime somewhere else, and the National Guard are not at every single subway station, which means criminals can just go around them if they really want to ride the train today. But you know what else might make it tough to run a business down here? Rampant shoplifting. Oh yes, in fact, New York is home to a $4.4 billion shoplifting industry, all related to the sale of stolen goods. In fact, if you were to try to take this CVS, which right now is full of progressive plexiglass, locking up pretty much every single product in the store, and try to run it below ground where there are even more criminals in an even smaller, tighter space, they would have even more problems. Which brings us to the real reason 75% of the stores down here have closed. It's because what's happening down here is the same thing that's happening up on the street, only much, much worse. And with all of the utter lawlessness that exists down here in a crime-ridden environment with very few authority figures present, it's no wonder that the people walking by aren't interested in spending money at your business so that you can pursue the American dream. No, instead, that business that you started, it's no longer a dream, it's a nightmare. So here we are at the strip mall beneath Columbus Circle. This is a very popular part of town, and even though all of these businesses are closed, you've got thriving businesses all over the place up on the street, where you have the Deutsche Bank Center, and we're even across the street from Central Park. So popular part of town, yet nothing popular is happening down here. For reasons that should be obvious, but aren't for some reason.
Sad-looking storefronts here underground, where you could once grab a slice or a newspaper or a coffee. Of 195 retail spaces in the subway system, only 52 of them are open for business. A vacancy rate of...
So the decline of these underground malls, it's something that's visible throughout the entire system, with 2/3 of available stores being closed completely. Now here, you've got more than that. You've got about 50% vacancy, it looks like, but other places you'll have closer to 100%, like at the Port Authority, where there are no shops open in that massive subway mall, even though there's a police station on site. But what's interesting is these places used to be thriving and full of shops. You used to have to pay extra if you wanted to open open up down here. But now these businesses are struggling and the city can't even give them away, in spite of all the forced foot traffic that comes from the subway itself, which is attached. But before we uncover how recent decisions by the city have likely doomed these underground malls to stay like this forever, it's important to understand that some people say crime has nothing to do with what we're seeing right now. Instead, this is all just a natural changing of the times, placing the blame for all of the challenges that these stores face on things like remote work and the internet. But although that sounds true, it doesn't explain everything.
Tommy Galehouse owns Tommy's Figs Retro Collectibles in the Columbus Circle station, next to recently closed businesses.
Because they can't make the rent. And we're just not getting enough foot traffic.
Ridership is down. I've definitely noticed it. While everyone...
So those are interviews with local businesses that are in this very same facility, and they say foot traffic is non-existent, not at the levels they need it to be in order to pay their rent and stay open. Now sure, when remote work started happening, there was a massive decline in subway traffic in places like this. But the MTA's own numbers show that ridership is up 25% this year over last year. In fact, stats through March show that 15 million riders came through here over the first 4 months of this year, which reveals the real problem we've got, and it's not foot traffic. No, in fact, there's more foot traffic than ever before. And if your business isn't like this one right over here, if your business is still open, a higher percentage of that foot traffic will have to pass by your store and your store alone. But the problem is the people passing by, they're not doing what they need to do, and that is spending money. In fact, it seems like people are spending as little idle time in the subway system as humanly possible these days. A massive problem for any business that wants you to sit down here and have lunch. And that's for the reasons we're about to see.
The mayor says the subway system is still averaging about 6 felonies a day, which is why he wants to implement this new technology that will help scan for guns underground. But civil rights groups are
So this video was shot 1 month after the National Guard rollout and the police rollout, and there were so many weapons being found on criminals in this subway system that the mayor wanted to roll out body scanners. This still may end up happening, but the point is crime here has remained persistently high, even with all the troops and all the security that we're now witnessing. And if the subway resembles a crime scene, how is that going to get the people that are walking around down here excited to spend more time here than they absolutely have to in order to get to an exit and vanish? And let's be real, who hears about weapons and felonies and assaults and says, yeah, man, that sounds like an awesome night on the town. I can't wait to spend as much time as possible in an area where stuff like that is going on every single day. Nobody. Now, I've lived here long enough to remember a time when this place was very busy and it was lively. You had lots of people frequenting these little businesses. They were packed pretty much all the time. But now, most of them aren't even open every single day of the week, and others are just straight up permanently shut down. And look at this massive table here. It winds basically through the whole center of this place. You used to have people hanging out here, eating, looking at things, just waiting for stuff to happen. It was an interesting, quirky little place. Yes, it was in the subway, but it didn't feel dangerous, and it certainly wasn't today's subway. It's not working anymore, and neither is the security apparatus that's supposed to get people down here to pay to use the train. And crime is all that's on anyone's mind down here, which is why none of these businesses were making any money, and have now literally kicked the bucket. And that's surprising because here we are at Rockefeller Plaza, another touristy location, which literally has its own thriving, privately run shopping mall, which is attached to the subway mall that no company wants to run a business in either, just like the one at Columbus Circle. And although you do have a couple of shops that are open serving drinks, most of this place is empty and deserted, with most of the restaurants closing. And that's because it's not just the customers in the subway that might be the target of criminals who are lurking around here waiting to assault people and steal from them. No, it's the very businesses themselves, even if they serve food. This here is security footage from a place selling tea and drinks located in another subway shopping center elsewhere in town, and you'll see a man approaching the store who realizes that it's totally unguarded. The employees are in the back doing something else. They're not watching the register. And look at what he does. He peers over the counter and sees that he can reach the register, and then he goes for the whole thing, stealing a wad of bills and running away at the last second. And the shocking thing about this is that the whole robbery took less than 25 seconds. Now, if that's the foot traffic that comes to your business, there's no way that business is going to survive. No way. Because stuff like that terrifies paying customers who are completely afraid to open their purses and pay for things. And the lawlessness of the environment with criminals everywhere means they're just waiting for the opportunity to strike something, someone, anything, even if it's one of the very businesses that's down here trying to survive. And to make matters worse, this robbery didn't happen in a station as scary as Columbus Circle or Rockefeller Center. Oh no. It happened in the brand new, relatively speaking, Fulton Center, which is a massive billion-dollar facility that was supposed to be the greatest shopping mall ever to exist, but now all of the stores there are closed. And what do you think the city is doing about all the crime that flows out of the subway over to the businesses that are trying to make it down here? Would you be surprised if I told you the answer to that was nothing?
The MTA rolled out a plan to put art and entertainment into some of the vacant storefront space.
Our MTA real estate group has tried activating these spaces in about 30 stations, bringing into the station arts or cultural groups for non-commercial purposes.
Wow, so this is what progressive solutions to progressive problems look like. Instead of cracking down on the crime that's closing the businesses, they're spending more money to make those closed, empty businesses that will never reopen look a little bit better, which I guess is a step in the right direction, but it's not making a dent in the overall problem we've got down here. Speaking of which, there is so much turnstile jumping down here, I think you could find the entire U.S. hurdles Olympic team in this station. Renovating these empty spaces, scraping off the old Subway logos, that's definitely a step in the right direction, and this is what you see at certain kiosks in the Fulton Center. They've got the art galleries set up there already. But is anybody really gonna care if this empty storefront right here has lights and some art pieces in it? Is that really gonna matter to the people who are walking by, trying to just get out of here as fast as they can? Especially when the subway to begin with is poorly maintained and falling apart all around it. But definitely cleaning all of this up would help hide the decline, and over time it might help people's attitudes recover to a point where they feel like spending money once again. But really, if you want a vibrant underground economy full of thriving businesses in this derelict shopping mall, something more is gonna have to be done.
The victim, a 26-year-old man who says he never saw it coming. He was the victim of a random attack.
It does make me nervous, and I think, living in the city and, everyone has different circumstances, but living in a city like this is hard enough as it is. It's really stressful when one of your day-to-day activities is shadowed by something so terrible.
Subway safety concerns have prompted the city to take action. Earlier this...
Okay, so this is from just a few days ago, and let me tell you, it's more proof that the people down here know what's really going on, because petty crimes like this are happening all over the place, and nobody wants to expose themselves to that, which is why I'm the only one down here right now. Which means you can beautify this train wreck all you want, but that's not going to stop the crime. You'll effectively have just created a nicer environment for criminals to rob and steal from people. And that reveals the real issue going on down here. It's not remote work that's taken people out of the subway. People still use the subway. And it's not online shopping that has stopped people from spending money in person. We've got an extremely healthy shopping center right next to the subway. You've got high-end restaurants, you got expensive New York bagels. People are here buying stuff, that's for sure. Which proves that a well-run shopping center like the Rockefeller Center here or the Deutsche Bank Center, both of which are privately run, not by the city, which have clean, safe environments, free from debris and crime, with actual security round the clock checking these places out, these places can benefit from the foot traffic that is supposed to make the subway malls survive. Yet the MTA, who runs the subway, is unable for some reason to figure any of this out. Also, it's worth mentioning that the Rockefeller Center is much less modern than the Fulton Center, which was basically brand new 10 years ago. And even though things down here definitely have an antiquated feel to them, that's not stopping folks from coming in here and spending money. Is every store here open? No, absolutely not. They've got some issues as well, but the occupancy here rate is a lot better than what it is in the subway, where 2/3 of everything is shut down. And they've got a relatively decent mix of middle to high-end tenants. And the reason this is the case is because when the MTA opens a retail shopping mall that they try to run themselves, they're dividing their talent. They are supposed to be focused on running the subway, and they're not doing a pretty good job at that. So it makes perfect sense that they're unable to run shopping malls and attract tenants for those, causing them to lose thousands, millions of dollars in potential leases every single year. But the question now is, what could be done to turn that sinking ship around? Is there anything that can be done, or is it already too late?
That's why I put 1,000 police officers back in the subway system to really go after that visualization that we need. And that is why I'm continuing to push back on those who state we should be disbanding or defunding our police department. I want more recruits. I want more officers here, because that's what New Yorkers want.
The fear factor has been rising for...
Okay, say what you want about Mayor Adams. He's not his progressive progressive predecessor who gave us bail reform. And he knows that we've got to have police in the subway to make things here better. And until there's a prolonged police presence which convinces criminals day after day, week after week, month after month, year after year that the subway is not a place to commit crime, that's what it's going to take likely to get people's attitudes to change and to get them to want to open up their wallets and start spending money. You don't see people with money problems here at Rockefeller Center. Yes, it's a tourist attraction, but so should be Central Park, which is right next to the Columbus Circle shops, which are pretty much empty, revealing the sad truth that it's likely going to take a very long time to rehabilitate the subway system to a point where people's attitudes are not the attitudes they have today, which say, hey, just get me out of here as fast as you possibly can. Is that what's going on? Do you want to have lunch at any of the places we've looked at today, here at Rockefeller Center or over there at Columbus Circle? Do you think there's any way to save those shops, or should the MTA sell those to a private company who can own those and do a better job? Let me know. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next video.